If you have as little as an extra $25 a month, you should be putting that money to work. There are so many ways that you can build wealth passively, and I know everyone loves that word, passive income. So today I'm going to be highlighting 6 ways that you can start building wealth today through investing. Hi, I'm Chloé Daniels, a money coach, and I'm on my path to retire early. So to say that I love investing is an understatement. For those of you who don't know me, I was able to increase my net worth by about $400,000 in 5 years without ever using real estate. I was investing in the stock market, paying down my debt, and focusing on increasing my income. Now, I actually didn't start really paying attention to my investments until about 2020. I had been kind of passively doing things through my 401k, not fully understanding what it was, and it wasn't until I had started educating myself on wealth building that by 2020, I looked and I was like, okay, I really need to figure out this whole investing thing, so let me go ahead and start educating myself and start trying. Once I started investing in the stock market, that's when my net worth really started to take off. Now, as I said, I was able to increase my net worth by about $400,000 in about 5 years, actually a little less than that. And again, that's through investing in the stock market, not through investing in real estate. So I'm super excited to share with you some of the easy ways that you can get started right now. Now, remember, I've been investing since 2020, and so that huge net worth increase, it happened over a short period of time. So I hope that this ends up being inspirational for you and a reminder that even if you're getting started with something as small as $25 a month, I promise you over the long term, it's going to have a big impact. So let's get to it. Investing, as I'm sure you already know, is not a one-size-fits-all. Everybody watching this video is likely going to have a slightly different portfolio based off of your age and where you live and what your financial goals are, how much income you have, and kind of your lifestyle choices as well. What really matters is building an investing portfolio that's right for you. So today I'm going to cover 6 things that you're going to want to consider as you start to invest. All right, step number 1 when it comes to learning how to invest is you have to understand your own personal risk tolerance and risk preference. Because like I said, every person watching this video is probably going to have a slightly different portfolio because we're all slightly different people. Now, your risk tolerance as well as your time frame is really going to determine everything about your portfolio. It's going to determine how much stocks you have in your portfolio, how many bonds you have in your portfolio. Don't worry, we'll talk about what those are at the end of the video. But it's going to really help you in terms of designing and building an investing portfolio that works for you, that isn't too risky, that doesn't make you sweat every time you go and check your brokerage account. Step number 2 when it comes to learning how to invest is you're going to want to use your boring old retirement accounts. Now, before we get into retirement accounts, I want to make something very clear. So often people hear words like 401k or Roth IRA or taxable brokerage, and they think, oh, that's my investment. I have a Roth IRA. I have a 401k. Those are my investments. I'm good, right? But that is not true. Those are just accounts. They are containers for you to put your money in and then purchase investments. The last thing we want to have happen to you is for you to be diligently putting money into your Roth IRA or putting money into your 401k and thinking that you're investing and thinking that your money is growing, only to find out that you never picked investments. It's a 3-step process, so you want to make sure that you're actually picking investments once you open these accounts. So keep in mind the 3-step process is 1, open the account, like a Roth IRA, a 401k that we'll talk about here, a taxable brokerage. Number 2, transfer money into the account, okay? Then once that money is in the account, you have to 3, purchase investments, okay? So we do not want to forget that because the last thing we want to do is have you get to retirement and realize you never actually invested your money and it didn't grow. So let's talk about some of the basics when it comes to using our retirement accounts. Now, the first easy win when it comes to using our retirement accounts is making sure that if we have an employer match, whether that's through our 401k, our 403b, our 457, or something else, we want to always be getting that employer match. Think about it as your employer saying like, hey, this is extra money that we're going to give you for your future. You just can't access it until retirement. Would you say no to that? Most of us wouldn't, right? We just don't fully understand it. So no matter what, we want to make sure we're getting that employer match. And if you're getting that employer match, that's good news because that means you're already investing. Now, because a lot of us have 401ks, let's talk a little bit about what a 401k even is. A 401k is an employer-sponsored retirement account, meaning you can only have a 401k if it's somehow associated with your workplace. Now, that could be if you're self-employed, you could have your own solo 401k, but most of us are working for an employer, so we're going to have a 401k that's tied to that employer. With a 401k, the money is going to go straight from your paycheck before you ever even have access to that money directly into the 401k. So you don't have the option to spend the money before you put it into the 401k yourself. Then the 401k provider is going to take that money and invest it. Usually when you sign up for a 401k, on the 401k paperwork, it'll ask you a couple of different questions and it'll ask you what types of investments you want to pick. So likely you should be automatically invested, likely in something like a target date fund, but it's always a good idea to call your 401k provider and ask like, hey, I just want to make sure I'm invested. Now, before we move on from 401ks, just keep in mind with a 401k or a 403b, the maximum that you can put in as an employee is $23,000 a year, but that's in 2024. Almost every year they increase that limit. So if you're watching this in the future and you're not sure what those limits are, be sure to search for this year's contribution limits. Now, many of you have probably heard of a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA. I feel like those get talked about on the internet all the time, but what actually is an IRA or a Roth IRA? So an IRA, actually, fun fact, it stands for a individual retirement arrangement. I know it's weird. You can fact check me. It's not account, even though we all call it an individual retirement account. Doesn't really matter, but I think that's a fun fact. Now, an IRA, because it's an individual retirement arrangement account, you actually can open it on your own. You do not have to have an IRA that's directly associated with your workplace. In fact, it's not going to be directly associated with your workplace. All IRAs are something that we as individuals own and open ourselves. Now, there are two different flavors of IRAs. So you can either have a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA. Can you guess what the tax treatments of those are going to be? A traditional IRA, just like the traditional 401k, is going to be tax deferred, meaning that when you take that money out in retirement, you will have to pay taxes on it. Now, a Roth IRA, and why you hear about probably Roth IRAs more often than you hear about traditional IRAs, is because you get the really cool feature of the money going in post-tax, which means the money inside of your Roth IRA grows completely tax-free. The maximum that you can contribute to an IRA, whether traditional or Roth, is $7,000 a year in 2024. What that means is, let's say you put $7,000 into a traditional IRA. Let's say you qualified for that contribution to be deductible. There are deductible IRAs and non-deductible IRAs, so always check to see which one yours falls under. But let's say it was a totally deductible IRA. That means your contribution to the traditional IRA was pre-tax. So the money inside of that traditional IRA, let's say that $7,000 grows to $100,000 over the course of the next 30 years, you just made $93,000, but you will have to pay taxes on that full $100,000 when you take that out in retirement because your contributions to that traditional IRA were pre-tax. Now, on the flip side, we've got the Roth IRA. So let's say, again, we put that $7,000 into our Roth IRA, we buy investments, and those investments grow to $100,000 over the next 30 years. Well, we just made $93,000 totally tax-free. Can you see why the Roth IRA ends up often being the more popular choice between the Roth IRA and the traditional IRA? Because we love being able to access money tax-free in retirement. Now, with all that, there are limits on who can contribute to a Roth IRA, so be sure to check if your income qualifies you to be able to contribute directly to a Roth IRA. That's a quick Google search away. Now, the final account that I do want to make mention of, just because it's a really cool account, is what's known as a health savings account, or an HSA. Now, this is not to be confused with an FSA. So often people confuse a health savings account with its kind of cousin, and the flexible spending account, these are two very different items. A health savings account is an investment account that actually is kind of a hybrid. Not only is the HSA an investing account, but it is also a debit card for your medical expenses, and it could also be used as a savings account. So it kind of has three different purposes, and there's really no other account like it. In order for you to have an HSA and contribute to an HSA, you need to have a healthcare plan that qualifies you to use an HSA. If you're not sure if your healthcare plan qualifies you for an HSA, the easiest way for you to find out is to call your insurance provider and say, hey, does my insurance plan qualify me to use an HSA or not? Now, here's the hack that all my FIRE people are going to love, because an HSA can be a really powerful tool for early retirement. Here's the thing. In the years that you are using an HSA and that the HSA is active, let's say you're going about your business, paying for your medical expenses with cash. What you want to do is you want to save those medical receipts, whether you're keeping a file of photos in your phone or you're keeping the physical receipts, because at any time in the future, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, in order for you to access your HSA money totally tax-free, all you have to do is submit a medical receipt and boom, you get that money out of your HSA totally tax-free. A huge win, especially for people who are interested in retiring early. It's this extra bucket of money that's completely tax-free and very flexible in terms of when you can access that money. So if that's something that's interesting to you or you want to retire early, an HSA is probably going to be one of the number one accounts that's on your roster of account types. All right, step number 3 when it comes to learning how to invest and starting to invest right away is, well, you got to pick investment types. Now, this could be an entire video of itself. So what I'm going to tell you about is what's called an index fund. Tell us in the comments if you have heard of an index fund, because I know those are very popular in this community. Now, what the heck is an index fund? Now, the way I like to describe it is, let's say you were craving something sweet, but you're not entirely sure what that thing was, right? You walk into the grocery store, you go down the candy aisle, and you're looking, and you're like, I guess I'll pick this Kit Kat, but I really hope this Kit Kat satisfies the craving that I'm having. You go home and then you're like, all right, well, hopefully this satisfies my craving. That's kind of like picking an individual stock. You're like, all right, let's hope this individual stock out of thousands of different stocks is the winner. But what if you could be a little bit more effective and increase the chances that you're going to have a winner, that you're going to satisfy the craving that you're having? Wouldn't you then walk into the grocery store, go down the candy aisle, and grab the bag of chocolates, like the Halloween-sized bag of chocolates that has hundreds, if not thousands, of different stocks, chocolates inside of it? Then surely at least one of them or a few of them are going to satisfy the craving that you're having, right? That's kind of what it's like when you buy a fund, specifically an index fund. An index fund is going to contain hundreds, if not thousands of different stocks inside of it. That's pretty cool. And then it's kind of like buying the haystack rather than just trying to find the needles in the haystack. There are going to be winners within the hundreds of thousands of stocks that you've purchased just through one index fund. Now, here's the really cool thing about index funds is index funds are designed to be totally hands-off passive investing because they mirror what's called an index. Now, an index is just a very fancy term for a grouping of different investments. These are my favorite types of investments because not only is it incredibly difficult to do better than the index funds that are out there, but it's also very inexpensive. The fees that you'll see on index funds are like all the way from 0% up to maybe 0.3% because they're passively managed. They're designed to just perform how an index is doing. So nobody's inside of that index fund day trading, trying to make you, the investor, as much money as possible, which has been shown time and time again to actually do worse than just being designed to perform according to an index. Step number 4, after you've created those retirement accounts, after you've picked your investments, the next step is you could use what's called a general investing account or a taxable brokerage account. So often people go straight to the taxable brokerage accounts because they saw an ad and they opened an account and they didn't realize I should actually be using my retirement accounts. A general investing account or a taxable investing account account is something probably all of us will have in our portfolios at some point, because the beauty of a taxable account is that you do not lock up your money until retirement age. These are not retirement accounts. They're just regular investing accounts, which means that you can invest your money and you can access all of it at any time. Now, the downsides of a taxable investing account and why it probably shouldn't be the very first account that we open is that you're not going to save any money on taxes. So the money that you put into the account is going to be post-tax, and then as you buy investments and make income, you will have to pay taxes on the income you make, whether that's through dividends or whether that's through capital gains, i.e. you've been buying and selling and making profits. You will have to report that on your taxes every year and pay taxes on it. So that's why it's called a taxable brokerage account. But because of the flexibility of the account, likely it's something we will all have in our portfolios at some point. Now, step number 5 when it comes to learning how to invest and starting to invest right now kind of goes back to what we started talking about in the beginning, and is truly understanding your individual investing type and understanding if you're in wealth preservation mode or if you're in wealth accumulation mode. There are different investing types out there, and some of these tools and investment types are either going to fall into the category of wealth preservation, where you already have accumulated wealth and now you're trying to just preserve that wealth, or it may fall under wealth accumulation, where you're trying to build that wealth. Whether or not or how much you have of each is really going to go back to what your investor type is, what your risk preference is, what your time horizon is. But at the very base sense, your wealth preservation tools are going to be the things like bonds and fixed income and I bonds and things along those lines, potentially even different insurance products and things along those lines. Whereas your wealth accumulation tools are going to be your stocks, your index funds, your mutual funds, your ETFs, things that are going to have more volatility, but more growth over the long term. Most of us are going to have a healthy mix of both at any given time, but the closer you get to retirement age, the more we're going to shift from wealth accumulation, where the bulk of our portfolio is in things like stocks and REITs and those more volatile, more aggressive investments. The more we get to retirement, the more we're going to shift from that wealth accumulation into having a little bit more wealth preservation tools inside of our portfolios. Now, step number 6 is I just want to remind you that if you're watching this video and thinking like, is it really worth it for me to start investing? I only have $100 a month, or I only have a small amount. Don't you need so much money to get started? The answer is any amount matters when it comes to building wealth. You really want to get started as soon as possible, even if that means that you're not investing as much as you wish you could. So I want you to think about it this way. First of all, you putting $100 a month into the stock market for 35 years was a total of $36,000. So you put in $36,000 and it turned into $207,000. That's a $170,000 profit that you made from essentially setting up an automated investment. That's not bad. Most of the time in life, we're not going to get that kind of return on our investment. The other thing I want you to think about is in retirement, $207,000 could mean that you're living off of an extra $8,280 a year. Let's say all of a sudden your boss came up to you and was like, hey, we're just going to pay you $8,000 more a year. Is that cool? Would you be like, no, I'm good. Thank you so much. You might have questions and ask if that comes with more work or not. But if he just said, hey, I'm going to go ahead and pay you an extra $8,000 a year just because I want to, would you say, no, I'm good? Probably not, right? At the end of the day, more money is more money. And having an extra $8,000 a month in retirement is having almost an extra $600 a month. That could be extremely helpful in retirement, especially if the only thing you're living off of is Social Security. So if you're wondering, is it worth it for me to start? I would say absolutely. Is it worth it for you to have more money in the future? My answer is always going to be yes. And there you have it. I hope you found some inspiration in this. I hope you had some takeaways. I know it's a lot of information, and that's why I really want to emphasize that continuing your education really does matter. I know this stuff can feel so overwhelming, but I promise you, if I can learn it, you absolutely can. I was never somebody who thought that they would be interested in investing. But as I started educating myself, I realized it's less about the big, scary math, and it's more about learning a new language. That's really all investing is learning a new language. And I promise you, bit by bit, the more you learn, the easier it gets. And this is not above you. Remember, it is not just about the numbers. It's about living a life that truly aligns with the life that you want to be living. Thank you so much for your time. Again, I'm Chloé Daniels, the founder of Clobear Money Coach. You can find me anywhere at Clobear Money Coach, B-A-R-E, not B-E-A-R. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to search BiggerPockets for more. If you have any questions on investing or videos you'd like us to cover in the future, be sure to leave those down in the comments. Until then, I'll see you next time.